ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello, welcome to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
Do you know what's happened yesterday?
News about the ASEAN Foreign Minister meeting in Laos.
You know already. So that's happening today and tomorrow. But it's not that. The online news portal The Malaysian Insider was banned by the Malaysian government.
Oh, I saw that. Apparently it was banned on the grounds of quote-unquote national security.
Yep, from The Edge, now The Malaysian Insider. Media freedom is under threat, man. Well, on ASEAN Daily, we'll bring you daily updates and commentaries on issues and events that are impacting this region. I'm your host, Grace Cho.
And I'm your host, Arlene Tan. And on today, Friday, 26 February 2016, we will bring you the latest politics and current affairs news from Southeast Asia.
Our top story today. Transnational crime is booming in Southeast Asia. United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime warned apparently. And this is coupled by rapid regional economic integration and patchy cross-border police work.
And this is no small industry. It's so severe that the United Nations estimates illegal trade across East Asia and the Pacific is now worth more than $100 billion. Actually, it's more than the combined GDP of Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia.
Wow, really? This report is so stark from EU-inspired ASEAN Regional Economic Bloc, or AEC, in December. The vision is a single market with a free flow of goods, capital, and skilled labor, which should help the region compete with the likes of China and India for foreign investment.
Well, talking about AEC definitely is good for the government, but the move to open all barriers are likely to benefit Southeast Asia's sophisticated criminal networks. According to the report, transnational crime flows have been growing rapidly in the region, and the threat is clear and rising.
So those organizations already flourish amid widespread corruption and weak governance in Southeast Asia to trade drugs, wildlife, natural resources, people, and other counterfeit goods.
And timber is one area where crime groups can make huge gains with little risk. The report estimates that between 30 to 40% of all wood-based products export from Southeast Asia are illegal, and this is due to poor regulations and monitoring of the legitimate wood trade.
That's correct. Well, drug trafficking is a booming business here too, especially in Myanmar, which remains the world's second largest heroin producer after Afghanistan.
Oh, I thought it was Afghanistan. But when we think about shipping, something that we think it is a robust business for crime groups, and this is also another industry that the criminals have also dominated, with $5.3 trillion of global trade transiting through Southeast Asian waters each year. Of the 500 million containers that are shipped annually, less than 2% are inspected.
So less than 2%? Oh my God. What are these authorities doing at the seaport? I mean, we need better policies and controls for sure. This was also was a view expressed by Jeremy Douglas, regional representatives of UNODC.
And with highways and new infrastructures being rigorously built and having 10 to 20% increases in trade every year going into or through the territories in Southeast Asia, I think authorities in ASEAN simply do not have the protection measures in place for custom controls and policing system.
So if the issue is not addressed, they will have serious troubles, especially in the poorest countries, isn't it?
That's true. And ASEAN already faced embarrassment with its failure to address the issue of human trafficking and mass graves of the victims of human trafficking. If you still remember, the remains of 106 people believed to be migrants from Bangladesh, Myanmar, were found last year in a forested area in Wangkelian Perlis near the Malaysian-Thai border.
That's correct. That was pretty disturbing shocking scenes that we remember. Well, the next news, we shall dwell deeper in the affairs of Timor Leste. So, seldom times we hear much about this country, but it has been in an embattled dispute with Australia for years. So, the recent protest saw Timor Leste protestors demand Australia to settle maritime boundaries in the Timor Gap. And this is because the Canberra reaps profits through invalid treaty signed before Indonesian occupation.
Yep, and talking about the protests, about 3,000 people marching to the Australian embassy in the Timor-Leste capital of Dili on February 23rd. The demonstrations walk 500 meters from the Australia-owned Tiger refueling station to the embassy, carrying banners such as "We want justice" and "We want it now."
This is quite serious, isn't it? I mean, they said Australia has been exploiting oil and gas reserves in the Timor Gap, the maritime boundary separating these two countries, and for 40 years using a treaty it signed with Indonesia in 1972 as an impetus to support Indonesia's invasion of East Timor in 1975.
Yep, and Juvenal Diaz, the coordinator of the movement against the occupation of Timor Sea, told protesters that the value of aid received from Australia since 1999, which is about 1.7 billion US dollar, is actually less than the 5 billion US dollar that Australia earned in the last 10 years from oil and gas in the Timor Gap.
That's correct. So Juvenal Diaz, researcher at Laos Humutuk, an independent monitoring group on the country's economy and development, added the truth is that it is the right of Timor-Leste people. Through these mass demonstrations, we demand the Australian government to immediately dialogue with Timor-Leste.
And not just a demonstration, the movement also published a declaration demanding Australia to resolve its maritime boundary dispute with Timor-Leste through the International Court of Justice and the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea.
So Diaz said that the treaty signed with Indonesia is invalid under international law. When Timor-Leste gained independence through the referendum on August 30th, 1999, Australia still controlled the country's marine resources.
Yep. And Timor-Leste Foreign Minister Hernani Coyle revealed that Prime Minister Rui Maria de Araujo earlier had sent a letter to negotiate maritime boundaries. But the Australian government has not responded yet.
So like you said, Australia has not responded, unlike Indonesia, which has been very cooperative in settling maritime boundary issues with Timor-Leste. With Indonesia, it is nearing completion already.
And according to Mari Torres, a former political prisoner and cabinet member in Timor-Leste, he also voiced his concern. He said that for 24 years, Timor-Leste fought against the Indonesian military to have full independence and entitlement of land and marine resources. But until now, unfortunately, it is still gripped by Australia.
That's correct. In fact, Timor-Leste is putting the blame to Australia for the poverty in the country.
And according to Gregoria Saldanha, a social activist, he support what the view was, which is Australia was partly responsible for Timor-Leste's poverty. Noted that 40,000 Timorese died fighting for Australia against Japanese troops during World War II.
Well, he also added Timor-Leste people have been impoverished since the era of Japanese, Portuguese, and Indonesia colonization. Well, at this time, most people are still poor and dependent on natural resources such as oil and gas.
Well, the irony, talking about double standard for Australia in its foreign policy, it's funny because they don't mind to air views on the South China Sea dispute, but go all silent on the maritime boundaries dispute and the social implications towards Timor-Leste.
Well, let's move on to the next news. The next news is about Indonesia's war on drugs. So if you remember the infamous Bali 9 and a harsh capital punishment on drug trafficking, this time Jokowi is calling for bolder, crazier fight against drugs.
Yeah, and he said during a limited cabinet meeting at the presidential office on Wednesday that he wants more intensive, braver, crazier, and more comprehensive integrated efforts to eradicate drugs.
Well, I sort of agree. Well, obviously he has a point. And according to the National Narcotics Agency or BNN data there, the number of drug abuses cases in Indonesia in 2015 amounted to nearly 6 million users. But this is believed to be merely the tip of the iceberg. The number could be many times higher than this.
That's true. And also, Indonesia is a vast archipelago which gives international drug smuggling syndicates the ability to enter Indonesia through hidden paths.
So hence, Jokowi is taking the whole force to eradicate the drug abuse. Jokowi said all stakeholders must integrate their measures and declare war on drugs. He urged all parties involved in drug eradication, such as the BNN, Indonesian Military or TNI, the national police and the ministries to strengthen their cooperation in fighting against drugs.
Also, he wants a stronger law enforcement, including closing gaps in airports and ports nationwide that were potentially part of the drug trafficking routes.
Yep. And also besides that, intensifying creative campaigns to raise public awareness and stronger monitoring of the drug trade inside prisons. According to the data, around 60% of the nation inmates are serving sentences for drug-related cases.
60%? Wow. If you remove that 60%, most of the crimes are actually not that much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and the government would also want to focus on rehabilitation programs for drug users. But you know, the irony is Indonesia has also become a narcotic producing country itself. I wonder where they harvest the plants and where they are manufacturing factories.
Well, as part of this war on drugs, the government will establish a special task force aimed at eradicating drug trafficking.
So far, Indonesia police have arrested 50,178 suspects as part of the 40,253 drug-related cases in 2015 and confiscated 23.2 tons of marijuana, more than 1 million ecstasy pills and 2.3 tons of crystal methamphetamine, commonly known as sabu-sabu.
Oh my god, I don't know what to say, but from the experience of the US failed war on drugs, I think Jokowi should rethink the way Indonesia fight against this drug.
Yeah, especially many countries are now moving and are relaxing the usage of recreational drugs and focusing more on decriminalization rather than treating this as a crime like how you see it in European countries.
That's correct. I mean, that same goes with the rest of Southeast Asia.
That's all from our ASEAN Daily today. Thanks for tuning in to Durian ASEAN with me, Arlene Tan.
And I'm Grace Cho. For more updates on Southeast Asia, please go to our website at durianasean.com. If you're on the go, you can always download our TuneIn app on your mobile.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channels at Durian ASEAN and Durian ASEAN TV. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page, Twitter and Instagram. We always welcome feedback from our listeners.
Stay tuned with ASEAN Daily by next week, Monday, same time at 12 to 1 p.m. GMT plus 8. Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.